draft, okay, let's do... Okay, let's do something funny. Okay, so when it comes to draft, you have 5 things. Okay, you have A, B, C, D, E. Okay, here we go. A is the ability that you have to play your own pick. Okay, so for example, let's say I am a KO player and I pick KO. My KO is probably going to be a 9 out of 10, right? Um, but if I pick something that is completely off of my playstyle, like Zed, then it's probably going to be a 4 out of 10. But if I pick something that is somewhat similar to Kale, or let's say I play tanks well, I can do a 8 out of 10 on Ornn, because I play tanks well in general. And I can play another tank that I'm not very used to, like Tahm Kench, as 7 out of 10, because Tahm Kench is also a tank, but in the playstyle is somewhat similar, right? Of course, like I'm just throwing like random examples. The point is, like, the more approximate the champions are, the better that you're gonna be at them with lower effort. So specializing in some ways of the game is a good thing, right? You can actually branch out within your niche picks, and then you're somewhat gonna be kind of always be able to adapt. Okay. B is the skill of the enemy player against your champion, right? And this one is a little bit funny. So it's essentially this, but reversed. So A is your ability to execute, and B is the enemy's ability to play against it. So for example, if you go to tournaments, if you go to scrims, if you go to even solo queue, let's say Korean ladder, which is the one that is the most popular right now, especially because everybody's boot camping and everybody's at worlds, yada yada, right? We can take a small look at the pick ratio of champions. So let's utilize mid lane as an example. Let's go to Korea, let's go to current patch, and then let's go to mid lane, and then let's go to like Master Plus, right? We can throw GM here for argument's sake, because like on Korea, like you have many games that are on Challenger, for example, you have like you actually have a decent amount of games here, and then we can go to GM as well, and then let's see how many games. Okay, 18. So let's go to Challenger, because apparently this is like the biggest uh amount of games played on current patch, and then we see like the most standard picks, or the picks that are being like the most often seeing are Orianna, Jayce, Syndra, Yone, Nico, Akali, right? So the point is, people get better when you play constantly against something, because one, you understand how much damage it deals, you understand the limits of the champion much better, you understand how you're supposed to be trading, you understand like the power spec of the champion, yada yada. The point is, this one, and just like the other one, like skill level, and when it comes to playing your own champion, also comes based on the amount of effort you put into learning this specific style and champions. So this one, basically the point is, what happens in tournaments, scrims, and solo queue all day, which is what people are going to be practicing against. So for example, people are likely going to be very good at playing against Orianna, because that's what they do all day. But for example, if we go like here, we go to like Victor, people have played against in competitive for a long time, so they still understand how the champion functions. But for example, if somebody pulls a random Sion mid lane, nobody knows how to play against it anymore. If somebody pulls a Kiana, people have never seen this champion in like billions of years. Tryndamere, what is this champion? Echo, what is this champion, right? Nobody's not gonna know what do you do against it. This is the same thing for Garen. So there is an innate power, and you try to use picks that are not common, that nobody's gonna know how to play against. Malphite mid lane is another example. No mid lane is like used to playing against Malphite mid. So going back, you have A, which is skill. You have B, which is the enemy's ability. So you can maximize those things. The problem is C is the general power of a pick. And this is where it gets complicated, at least in competitive. For very, like, people think this is much more valuable than it actually is. This is a problem. And people also don't understand that this is something that is not, it's what I said, it's not based on what is people are doing, it's based on what actually happens once it like gets picked up. So general power of the pick means based on the patch notes, like based on current patch, based on the environments of the map, the items, the champion values, everything, that condenses into like what are the win conditions that you can have in a competitive game, and then from these win conditions, like what champions are good playing for these win conditions, yada yada. So every single environment of the game, not environment, every single variable of the game gets put into this so that you can finally have a conclusion of which champions are the strongest in a patch, like if people play at a certain level of the game, right? The problem is, even if you're picking a champion that is supposedly the strongest, let's say you have the strongest champion in the game, it's probably going to be like 57% win ratio and competitive, right? Let's say Maokai is really busted, right? And then you pick like a second hand pick, that is going to be like let's say like a 55, right? That is not much of a difference. Like a 2% is not much of a difference. You can make a much bigger gap by maximizing these two things. I would argue that, for example, if somebody's playing against a Garen that nobody is gonna ever play against, then your win ratio is probably gonna drop something like 5%, which is always gonna be better than this, right? And then you're also gonna be combining with A, which means you're also much better at playing this. So like for me, it's just complete garbage that this is currently going on. And if you look at our UM run, we're basically picking the same things because we're used to our own play style, and we're also denying the fact that like people are all picking Kai'Sa and they thought Kai'Sa was extremely strong. In my opinion, of the champion is dog shit. And yeah, like I really dislike this, and I think this is also happening because of over reliance on data, which also oftentimes is misinterpreted. So we also have D and we have E as well, which are D is how good the champion. Wait, fuck! I made a mess with my screen again. Okay, so D. um, D is the value, or like you can utilize the word like synergy, but like the value of the champion based on how good it is with allied champions, right? So yeah, you can utilize the word synergy. That's fine. Um, so for example, good combos. List me good combos. Maokai Jace, right? Kai'Sa Nautilus. You see it all the time, right? Sejuani random melee champion. I would argue that that one is not like necessarily that good, but then again, it's what everybody picks, right? Malphite Yasuo, sure, we can add that. Yasuo Diana used to be very common as well, right? We can keep going. So basically, like this one gains value for as long as the champions that you're making sense, your champions that you're picking make sense together, right? Like they do have some sort of combo, or like they do have a win condition, or they have a certain style or pattern that they both like, right? Like Aphelios Braum is also a good example. And then E is basically the opposite of A and B again. E is just like how good the champion is against the enemy champion. So for example, this one is also something that is like very emphasized in competitive right now. So for example, somebody picks Malphite, you go Sylas, right? Then you're maximizing the value of E in this case. Or for example, somebody picks Kalista, you go Ashe. If somebody picks, I don't know, Syndra, you go Xerath. If somebody picks Nautilus, you go Braum, right? This is how you maximize these things, right? But optimally, you want to get a pick that maximizes both E and D. But yeah, it's as Alice said, it's just like there's trillions of like variations or examples about this, right? The main point is everything that I talked about, all these points that I just made, right? This all condenses into the power of the pick that you just made. You want to maximize the X value. You don't want to maximize C. You don't want to maximize B. You don't want to maximize D. You want to maximize X. So it's just like the combination of everything. In my opinion, A and B should be more emphasized, especially B. I feel like B is the one that is the most undervalued thing in this game currently. All right, anyway, thank you for joining my TED Talk. Okay, let's continue.